welcome once again to the Brett Chat Sport or BCS podcast. This week, my guest is Michael Cresswell, who's both a player and a coach at Herts Baseball Club just outside of London. We had a really good chat about his fandom as well as him being a coach at the club and what that entails. And so without further ado, let's hear from Michael Cresswell. Hey Michael, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, good to be here, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'll start this chat as I start every chat. Who do you support and why, Michael?
Well, let's go with football then, I suppose the biggest one. Football, arguably the biggest team that wear green in the country, Plymouth Argyle. Considering I was born in Islington and I live about 400 miles away from it, it's a bit of an oddity. But my dad has the unique blessing of deciding to support a team that wore green. And he decided then that I would get involved from that after following Man United until I was about 7 years old. And then I decided to follow the same team my dad supports. And subsequently, since following them, they've been relegated twice. We've almost folded the club. We lost to a couple of non-league teams. And now finally, we're actually going somewhere. We're now in the Championship. So we're actually back to playing some amazing football, some amazing teams. It's an oddity, though, to say that because I confuse a lot of people when I say that I support Plymouth. It's just one of them weird oddities, really.
So there's no geographic reason in your family for supporting Plymouth Argyle. It was purely that your dad likes the colour green.
Yep. I wish it were some other logical reason, but it really isn't. My dad in the 60s, 70s just liked the colour, and he decided to follow a team that wore it. Now, I think only them and Yeovil wore it, but Yeovil at this point were playing in like the Southern District League in some really low level. So we took it on and followed them. And then later on, when the FIFA's come out in like 2003, 2004, we sort of realised the Football League was in it. And my dad would play a lot. And then I would realise, okay, I want to play and support the same teams that he does. And yeah, it came out like that. So ironically, my dad's never been to a game at home, our home park. I've been to one game at home. Obviously, it's a long journey. It's about 5.5 hours for me one way. But I'll happily do it again one day. I've been to many away days for them. And we're currently under a lot of talk anyway because we've just got Wayne Rooney as our manager. So, interesting perspective, really, I suppose.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen that. I haven't seen that Wayne Rooney had become your manager.
yeah. We decided to take a guy who's done so well at Birmingham, he almost got them relegated, to getting them relegated, to taking on the job over down here. But listen, he did very well in the interview stages, and it's probably the personality of who he is. Everyone knows he was a world-class footballer and arguably one of England's best players of all time. So we've taken a chance on him. I have to be optimistic because if I'm not optimistic, then I support the wrong teams, and I hope we do really well this season. So yeah, who do you support, Brett?
So I support Wigan Athletic. So I'm in the league below you. My team's in League One, and I'm hoping that we might get into the Championship again because we're just starting to come out of some of the financial restrictions that were put in place. You know, even after Mike Danson took the club over last summer, there were still some financial restrictions in place, and they're just starting to get relaxed a bit. So we aren't fully out of them yet, but I'm hoping this season, now that we won't have any points deductions and we just have some of the financial restrictions in place in terms of who we can bring in and on what types of deals, then I'm hoping we can do better this season. We might see you in the Championship in the 25-26 season. Who knows? I have a couple of questions regarding your fandom with Plymouth Argyle. Firstly, what happens if your dad ever finds out about a team called Forest Green Rovers?
Well, Forest Green Rovers wear the wrong shade of green, which is sort of somewhat ironically hilarious. Yeah, they're a strange lot, Forest Green. They've sort of bankrolled themselves to League One, and then now they started to fall off a cliff a little bit. But there's starting to be little teams that have come up with different shades of green and whatever, but we've stuck with Plymouth Argyle and we'd never change. We're diehard supporters of them. Like, regardless if a new team came up, I know Burscough, for the sake of argument, near Liverpool, they wear green, but I don't see, even if they came up to the top flight, I'm not really going to support them. We've kept our allegiances, and my dad and I, we both support exactly the same teams in every sport. So my dad and I have never deviated. So we're basically the same guy, really. Just 40-year difference. Just a scary thought, really. But yeah, that's what it is, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a very unique reason for choosing a football club, but then again, I'm going to assume that your dad chose his football club when he was a kid, and you know that's one of the reasons why kids like things is because of the colour. So in that way, it does make sense actually. But yeah, it's I certainly commend you for sticking with Plymouth Argyle because you know they've certainly had the trials and tribulations over the years, you know, in terms of relegations and you know financial peril and all that. So yeah, I've never you know I've never had a Plymouth Argyle show fan on this show yet, so it's a first for everything, and I'm yeah very glad to be chatting to you because. You know, there is unless I was to get someone like Josh Wiggicombe on this show somehow, I don't think I'd
Yeah,
have found a Plymouth Argyle fan otherwise. So yeah, it's very good to meet your acquaintance, Michael. But yeah, certainly, you know, very unique reason, but absolutely, you know, fantastic that you know even if it was a unique reason, you've stuck with the team through thick and thin. You know, you've mentioned that they are back in the championship again now. Like, how do you think things will go for you in this season then? You know, given that you're getting promoted and there is, it has to be said, there is a big gap, well, an ever increasing gap between League One and the Championship in terms of financials for teams.
yeah, it's a tough league. I think it's arguably the hardest league in the world to be
Mm.
considered, and it's also a league in which it used to be no one really expected who was going to win, and any team on any day can beat anyone. Now you can say that I suppose in the Premier League, but it's very rare now that Manchester City are going to lose to somebody, say Bournemouth or Ipswich, for the sake of argument. Um, I've always said for us now we're at this level is just to survive and slowly build up, like the likes of Luton did, like the likes of Ipswich have done, which is nothing short of commendable in what they've done. It's a very tough league. We don't want to be like, sorry to say it in some irony, Wigan, but mostly Rotherham
Yeah,
and teams that are very much a case of too good to stay up to go down and keep themselves in League One because they're always winning it, but then they get to the Championship and they end up on the verge, if not always going down. So stability would be nice, which is very rare of a team I follow specifically for football. I'm used to seeing
yeah,
playing in different divisions in respect, really. It's just sort of become the
yeah.
mainstay. So I've gone to a lot of different teams just purely on the basis of new league. Where are we going to go this time then?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as a Wigan Athletic fan, I can absolutely see where you're coming from and know where you're coming from because Wigan certainly has become one of those teams that were yo-yoing between the Championship and
Yeah,
League One, and then we've ended up being in League One for a couple of seasons now, at least because of those points deductions and financial
yeah,
penalties that we got after you know following the frankly disastrous ownership of those that came before our current owner, Mike Danson.
yeah.
So yeah, but as I say, you know, I certainly hope to see you in the Championship next season, and if not, then maybe we see each other in League One in next season. Let's see how things go. But yeah, let's hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. You know.
Yeah, you never know, eh?
But yeah, in terms of other teams and other sports, who else do you support apart from the mighty Plymouth Argyle?
So there's two sports really I like. I follow three main sports: football, baseball, and ice hockey primarily. Um,
Yep.
Ice hockey. I used to follow the London Knights in England, but then they folded, so that sort of stopped that one. But in America, I follow the New Jersey Devils since 2001. Again, my dad, when he moved over to when he was in America for a bit, went to a few teams. He didn't like the Rangers. The Islanders were very cocky at the time because they just won 4 Stanley Cups in the 80s. And he found that the New Jersey Devils, to some ironic, also wore red, white, and green before changing to red, white, and black. But he really liked how they were, the emphasis on how they stood as a team, and we followed them. So the New Jersey Devils, ice hockey, pretty not a big fan, but keep up with most of the games that happen during the season. Again, like Plymouth, it's a bit of an oddity that we've been mediocre at times, but that's the good thing about American sports. It's very much a cyclical game of teams end up with very good prospects who end up possibly making the team, have a couple of years of grace, and then sometimes, unfortunately, with small market teams, they can't afford them. So it ends up being a very harsh scenario of you can create this kid and have him for 7 years at, say, I don't know, the Minnesota Wild, for instance, in ice hockey, but then he may go to the New York Rangers because they can pay more. It's very much different and a lot more vast in baseball, especially with small market teams. As you know about the Open Days, and other teams like that, who unfortunately their payroll is so low. It got to the point where I think the Mets, when we had Scherzer and DeGrom, were paying more for those two than the entire Open Days roster, which is really insane.
We should say you are you're a New York Mets fan as well. That's what we were going to mention that as well. But yes, you are absolutely right. There was a point last season where the New York Mets were paying Verlander and Scherzer about over $70 million for that season, and the Oakland A's payroll was just over $40 million for the season. So yeah, and and it should be said, even now the Mets are still paying both Verlander and Scherzer to play for other teams. That was how much they were paying those two guys before they then decided to offload as much as they could at the trade deadline last season. But yeah, just to confirm, you are a Mets fan as well. And one thing I was gonna ask you, given what you were talking about, the New Jersey Devils, in terms of both ice hockey and baseball, then, do you feel that sense of being a small market team when it comes to both of those teams? Have you seen over the years the Devils or the Mets missing out on players because if someone's going to move to the tri-state area, they're going to play for the Yankees rather than the Mets, or they're going to play for the Rangers rather than the Devils because that's the big team in the New York area, right, as opposed to the smaller team that you support. Is that a fair assessment, do you think?
It's a very strange question because the Devil, ice hockey is very different in the fact that the max salary and minimum salary, there's a limit.
Yes.
You have a minimum salary and max. So a lot of it in that entailment is very much that a lot more teams are interested and a lot of teams can actually keep up with it. So there is at least a fine margin in the NHL, even though it is sort of somewhat struggling financially, that a lot of teams, even if you are a very low market team that doesn't have a lot, your minimum salary floor has to be met. So people do take a chance and are able to do so. The irony now of being a Mets fan, which is somewhat funny to us, is that 20 years ago, we were owned, obviously, at some point by Bernie Madoff, and that obviously collapsed on itself, understandably. 10 years ago, we were a team that was in the bottom half of payroll, and we were very second rate to the Yankees in that we were signing players sort of rarely, if I'm honest. Like we would fill bit part players, we'd get quite good in the fact that we'd have very good pickups for a few years. Like we'd have Marlon Byrd, who was really good on a very cheap deal. We'd have R.A. Dickey, who basically became a transcendent player for us, and we traded him away to get some good picks out of Toronto from it. Now it's very odd because we've now got the highest payroll in the league, with 300 million, and it's weird because it's an oddity really to me. I've never supported a team that had such a huge financial gain over something, but it's true in the fact that I don't think the Mets have got this huge draw than other teams. I mean, the biggest draw at the moment in Major League Baseball, I would say, that shadow of the doubt, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're on the West Coast. You have transcendent talent in Shohei Ohtani. You've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who I think is superb. The only fact they're losing players is purely on the basis that they just want a little bit more, and Corey Seager rightly went on, people like that. So it's a bit of an odd one for us because we're still going through transitionary periods. We've picked up a lot of deals of Severino, Sean Manaea, Harrison Bader, who I thought were very good pickups, to be fair. And they're all very much bridge deals, 1 or 2 more years, and see how we go. In answer to your question, the Mets have always tried to go for certain players, but never sort of publicly announced that we were going full out for it. We've definitely had deals in the past where the big deals, like Yoenis Cespedes and Curtis Granderson, were actually done quite quickly, and we were very forward-thinking, got it done, sorted, no problems. If we've ever been in a bidding war, we are primarily the losers, and that's fine, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Baseball's a very harsh sport in which you can be a great player and then within 2 years you can be DFA'd. I mean, Tim Anderson just got DFA'd 2-3 years ago. He was a very good player for the White Sox. Now he's just been cut by the Marlins.
Okay.
So, in answer to your question, it's an odd one. The only team I very much have a disliking for in baseball is the Yankees, but that's because I'm a Mets fan. I know. I just don't like the Yankees. When I went over to New York briefly to watch us play the Yankees and we took them apart, it's an odd one because I don't like the Yankees, but I can't help but admire that. I can't say a bad thing about Aaron Judge. He's an incredible player, and more than that, he's an incredible person. And I would go as far as to say Juan Soto has probably got the best eye in baseball by quite a distance. His vision, his ability. I would adore the Mets to sign Juan Soto, but look, everyone's going to be going for him, and there's no point as a Mets fan trying to keep your hopes up thinking that we will get that next big free agent, because the last time we usually try and do that, it usually doesn't go very well. It's the best way we've sort of found it from all the trades we've done from 40 to 50 years ago of all free agent pickups of theirs.
Because it was a big thing last season that Steve Cohen came in, and then in the off season before the 2023 season, the Mets spent big. You got a lot of guys in, and it would be fair to say that you were paying top dollar, and then you ended up having a payroll of $360 million last season, and were far and away the highest payroll. You're still very high up in the payroll states this season. I checked before we came onto this chat, and the Yankees have got the highest payroll this season, but then the Mets are only slightly below them. So you're in second place as a team when, as you say, historically the Mets used to have one of the lowest payrolls. So for you as a fan, what is that like to go from and I'm asking out of pure curiosity as someone who supports the A's, who historically have had one of the lowest payrolls. At one point used to have a very high payroll in the 80s when you won't believe this, we were actually winning championships.
Yeah.
We had a high payroll and we're winning World Series. It's as if there might be a connection between the two things, John Fisher. Who knows? But I'm curious. How do you find that as a fan that Cohen has come in and he's put his money where his mouth is, and initially it didn't go too well last season, but he's continued to put the money where the mouth is. You brought some very good players in. And I'm not just saying that because you got someone like a former A in Sean Manaea, and you got Fujinama, who was also an A last season. You got some very good players in last off season. Adam Ottavino, for example, good player. Along with all the others that you mentioned. So how are you finding that? Like, can you see the path to success for the Mets, or do you think it's a bit too scattergun still?
From an honest point of view right now, the Mets, and again, don't take my words as gospel because, one, I'm not a part of the front office. So We've signed a couple of players on bridge deals on the hope that they will be good enough to either be traded away or have a year or two extension to become part of the roster as the middle to back end part of the team. Spending money is a good thing, but only when it's a clever idea and done in the right way. Because when you're spenders, as I'm sure you know, being a Bulls fan and other people tend to overpay. Now there is no way of saying it. We overpaid for Scherzer, we overpaid for Verlander, because we wanted these elite pitchers. The benefit is that we managed to trade them away, but we're very lucky in the benefit that we can eat the salary. Now that's 70 million of dead money, which is it's absolutely ludicrous, really, when you think about it. It's ironic because the players you mentioned, not only because they're both Oakland Athletic players respectively, but Fujinari's always been really good, and he's actually gotten better for us. Unfortunately, he's had a few injuries. And Sean Manaea has arguably been our best starter alongside Luis Severino. And they're on, again, bridge deals. I think it's a case of right now for the Mets eating all the salary and clearing it off the board. There's a bit of a sadness at the moment because, as the Orioles found, same with the Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays have found it the wrong way, unfortunately. The Orioles found quite a unique way, and at the moment, the best way of drafting number one overall has now become a bit more of a guaranteed prospect, whereas 10 to 15 years ago in baseball, it was a lot more difficult. So now with the likes of Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, and all these players, the majority of them are now actually going to hit. The Blue Jays, who were ironic in that they tried to sort of keep up with it and not be as bad as other teams, ended up with lower picks and unfortunately haven't drafted very well, have now ended up being the worst team. I think the answer to all of this is essentially we want to compete, but the money has to be spent in a very clever way. And there are always going to be people that know how to take advantage, and that's completely fair and justified. The Mets right now, their main goal is to just clear as much debt as possible. Just clear it off the books. There is no point, because otherwise you're going to be trying to rebuild for something when you have so much dead money. I admire Steve Cohen's tenacity in that when he first came in and tried to spend all these money on these high-rated pitchers, because fair enough, it's his money, he can do whatever he wants with it. It didn't work, unfortunately. The somewhat trade of it is that we got Luis Angel Acuna and other pitchers who could be something, or an infielders, as well, outfielders. That's the risk of the game you take. So at the moment, in my mind, the Mets want to clear as much as they can, lower the payroll, and then start to look to sign players who have a point to prove, definitely no longer veterans as much as it used to be, and sort of go from there. So I don't know, for instance, if the Mets will be in on Soto. I think they'll make a very good offer, but I suspect other teams will make it more competitive in terms of giving money to them. I don't think the Yankees are going to be quiet about it. I wouldn't even be surprised if other teams on the West Coast will try and do it as well. There are teams like the Detroit Tigers who have been talking about it. It's an odd one. Money doesn't always win championships. Sometimes you can just get a bunch of really good guys together who, a couple of years in, low payroll, works out really well, and you go from there. Baseball's just become one of those sports where the inflation's become so high. Like you said, the A's are on almost sub 70 million, and we've got 4 times the payroll. Arguably, we should have 4 times as many wins, but we don't. It's what it's become now, hasn't it, really? It's just one of them sports.
But then again, like we both, I think we both had the pleasure of seeing the Mets play at the London series this year, and you, as you mentioned yourself, you went over to New York was it June, and you saw
Yep.
the Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees. So
Yep.
it's I say this having seen those 2 Mets games at London Stadium. You have a very good team there. There is I was very impressed by what I saw, and not just Lindor and Alonso, but other the rest of the lineup too. I genuinely enjoyed seeing the Mets play as well as the Yankees during not the Yankees, sorry, the Phillies during that London series. So, yes, as you say, the money has to be spent correctly and it has to be spent smartly, but I mean, certainly from what I saw, there is there is the makings of a very good roster there at City Field, and who knows? Let's be very positive and say that if that roster can continue to coalesce, then you might be able to you might make the playoffs this season. A World Series may not be too far off it, but as you say, things have to the money has to be spent smartly, and things just have to come together at times. You
Yeah.
need that little touch of luck and that little touch of magic. But let's be positive and say that the Mets are on an upward trend. And let's see how that goes for you.
Yeah, I hope so. Probably
Yeah,
getting there.
and one of the reasons why, yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons why you are able to, talk about baseball so well is that you're showing this with your hat. You are also involved with Herts Baseball Club. You're a coach at Herts Baseball Club. And how long have you been doing that for then, Michael?
So I've been playing since 2012. I've been coaching at Hearts for this will be my fifth year, I believe. So it's just something that I've always wanted to do. I mean, it's been very helpful in the fact that I've had a lot of players who have been arguably, I say arguably, I've been a lot better than I and have coached me and the forces of the game and just being able to hand it down to other people and get them to just get invested in the game. It's not even just a case of they want to reach the highest level. They just want to enjoy it, and we want to ensure that they're doing it safely, they're doing it correctly, and then all of a sudden, when you get someone who comes over here and hits a round ball with a round bat, all of a sudden they absolutely love it, and that's what it's all about. So I've been doing this now for, like I said, 5 years. It's been great fun. Continuing to do it, and it's just been great. Honestly, I've made so many friends from it, and I've seen a lot of people who have just got into the game from this alone, and they've wanted to join the team. Or we've always said, even if you would join another team that isn't even us, I'm not that bothered. Like, just go out and have fun with it. Go and play some games. It's great fun. This sport.
Yeah, and tell us more about the club. How many teams comes under the club banner, and what age groups do you serve?
So we serve pretty much every age into adults, every age you can think of. For the youth, I believe we go down to under 11s at the moment. We've got a youth program that ranges all the way to the under 19s. And we currently have in the adult league, we have one team at Treble A, which is the Hearts Cardinals. We have two at Double A, which is the Hawks and the Ducks. And we have three at Single A, which is the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Buzzards. It would be pretty ironic if I missed a team. I don't think I have. But if I have, I do apologise. I think I have. Yeah, so we've got all sorts of levels from a variety of experiences, from a variety of genders, from a variety of skills. So we try and incorporate people in any way we can, from if you've never played a game in your life, to players that have played 10, 15 years, if not all their life. And they go into the teams, they fill out the rosters, they have fun with it, they have different levels. It's been good. It's been good to see. We try and get everyone to train together because it's good to just get the camaraderie and the chemistry of everyone together because we want to make it really like a family atmosphere. And because of that, we've got some amazing people like myself or like other coaches and volunteers who have just been sort of carrying this really. We've got the board members, for instance, like Matt Bell, who does a lot for the club. We used to have Aspie, who's still with the club, who is revered almost as a legend in terms of the British baseball community of what he's done, not only for Hearts, but just for the British baseball landscape. He's been tremendous. Still with us, amazing guy. Yeah, we're very honoured in that we've had a lot of good people in this club at the moment and in the past who have always wanted to get involved and help out in any way they can, and we've always welcomed that.
Yeah, to get involved with Herts Baseball Club. How can they do that? How can they get in touch with you guys to to find out more?
Well, if they want to get in touch with us, primarily at Hearts Baseball, that would be the best way to do it on Instagram. We've got Facebook as well as X or Twitter, whichever way you wish to do it. Any way really that can be done we will happily pick it up. If you're interested in just playing baseball, because we've got two diamonds, three technically, two situated in Grove Hill Ballpark in Hill Hempstead, and one situated in Golders Green in North London. But if you're nowhere near that, then you can go anywhere you want. There's teams all over the country. From teams there's a team in Truro, for instance, in the southwest, and there's teams up in Newcastle. Wherever you go, there'll primarily be a team around. You don't realise it. There's just small little diamonds everywhere that just happen to be existing. Until you go past them, you don't even realise that baseball even exists in this country, let alone that it's actually played in a league format. And it's then you realise, oh, we've got a national team, and we've got a women's national team, and we've got youth international teams. There's all this organisational structure, and people don't unfortunately know about it. But that's the thing. We just want the game to grow in general. That's the most important thing. Let the game grow and continue.
Yeah, absolutely, and as Michael alluded to, there are teams all over the country, and if you want to find your local team, the best way to do that is to search for BS UK Team Finder on Google
Yep.
or any other search engine,
Yep.
and then you'll bet if you type your postcode in, you can then find your local team, your local club, and the teams that club has, the age ranges that club will serve, and absolutely you'll be able to find a club near you. And as you've seen on previous episodes of this show, someone like Ian Blease, the Liverpool Trojans, is welcoming players from across the northwest. Someone
Yep.
like Kelly Wright at the Sheffield Bruins herself lives in Liverpool but still commutes over to Sheffield to be part of that team, and she's serving players from across the north and into the Midlands as well. So wherever suits you best, you can find that team by searching for BSUK Team Finder online. Just to get back to Hearts though, Michael,
Mhm.
you've already mentioned, but just to clarify, if anyone is interested in getting involved or maybe getting the kids involved, how old does a child have to be to get involved with Herts Baseball Club?
We've even got players as low as 7, 8 years old. We've had players that come down
Hmm.
at that low age. If you're ever curious or just want to know, just send in an email and we'll come back to you as promptly and as quick as we can with the honest answers. So we have two different areas like we do it. We have youth sessions that go on. We have youth sessions on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We have adult training sessions that happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as Wednesdays at Grove Hill. So we've got a variety of training sessions that are going on throughout the week, really, where people can get involved. It's not just a one thing. We're introducing a Welcome to Baseball program going on in London at the moment. It's held by one of our good coaches, Reese. I'm getting involved in that as well, so it's really good to see. It's all a case of there's a lot of options and variety on our end if you wish to join. And again, for instance, on Wednesdays at Grove Hill, we start from 6 till sunset. Even if you can't get there until 7:30 in the evening, you're more than welcome to still come down and train. It's not a problem at all. We've got a lot of guys and gals that have got work commitments and everything like that, but we always say to them, come down whenever you can. You'll still be able to train. You'll still be able to get a couple of swings in, get some throwing programs down, everything like that. We try and make it so people are aware of what's going on. So, yeah, feel free to just drop us a message and we'll be happy to come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Michael mentioned, you can find Hearts Baseball online at Hearts Baseball on various social media channels. But you can also type in heartsbaseball.com and go to their website and find out even more information there, and get in touch with them via the contact form on the website. So yeah, absolutely. If baseball sounds like something that you'd like to get involved in, or you think your kids might enjoy, then yeah, absolutely do get involved with Hearts. But if you aren't in that Hearts area, then be a BS UK Team Finder, and you can find your local club and a team that's best fitted you or your kids. For now though, Michael, I think we've had a wonderful time. I don't want to take up any more of your evening, because you've had a long day at work. It's been an absolute joy to chat to you though, and yeah, I look forward to chatting to you again.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, Brett. Just drop us a message. Happy to talk.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, thank you once again, Michael, and once again, absolutely do get involved in baseball. Hertsbaseball.com if you're interested in uh, getting along to Golders Green or the other diamonds in the London area and meeting Michael and his teammates, or the BS UK team finally to find your local team if you are in a different part of the UK. But yeah, for now though, thank you very much, Michael, and yeah, speak to you again soon. Bye bye now.
Take care.
So there you have it, a really good and insightful chat with Michael there. I found it really interesting to hear from him what it's like to be a coach and what it involves for him. And it cannot be emphasised enough just how important people like Michael are. We need people like Michael at Herts Baseball Club. We need people like Kelly Wright at the Sheffield Bruins, people like Ian Blease at the Liverpool Trojans, to be bringing kids into the club, you know, giving them this love of baseball and then helping to hone their talents. I had the pleasure of talking to Chris Ward, who is GB Baseball's under 12s coach, while I was at the London Series games back in June. And the thing that he was saying was the need to get more kids into the system, and that's not going to happen without people like Michael, Kelly, and Ian doing the work at the grassroots levels to bring these kids in and get them to the level where Chris can then take over, continue to develop their talent, and then hopefully get them towards the elite level of the game in this country. And that's true of coaches of all sports, it has to be said, whether that's football or more niche sports like basketball in this country, for example. Uh, for now, though, that is the end of another edition of the BCS podcast. As always, I thank you very much for joining me, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye now. The BCS podcast is written, produced, edited, and hosted by me, Brett Walker. Thank you to Boris Anderoff and Pixabay for the use of the music and sound effects in this podcast. This week's guest was Michael Cresswell.